How do you think
Women
that looks?
are never going to have a trouble with men pursuing them. That's not a problem. That's
Right.
not an issue they have.
What is?
It's the men they want.
It is a problem. It is a problem for a lot of women.
The pool is a lot smaller nowadays.
Yeah, let's find out if it's a problem for a lot of women. If there was men right now, let's just say there was a man, random man in the room who was equal age with each one of you, and you guys opened up your DMs. How many DMs do you guys get compared to that man that say, "Hi, beautiful. Hello, gorgeous. Oh, girl, I saw you on such and such, and you were amazing. Oh my God, what's up, hottie?" How many of those do you guys get? Go ahead, raise your hand if you get those DMs. Come on, don't lie to me. Raise your hands if you get those DMs. And let me tell you how many of those DMs I get. And I'm a fairly well-known, pretty famous at this point podcaster.
But you're married.
A couple.
I am too.
But even
Okay,
if I
but the
was
guy's
single,
DMing.
Hang on. She's married. She's married and gets them.
Oh,
She's
wait.
married and gets them. Other
Okay.
women are married and get them. What are you talking about? So the thing is, just like, very few. And I have many advantages, huge advantages other men don't have. So the thing is like, the pursuit is not an issue for women. That's insane, right? They get pursued endlessly. It's who's the right man, and the kind of pickiness factor and this and that.
I think that women, unfortunately, the older as society's gone on, we've gotten pickier, men have gotten pickier. I think that when you have countless people at your disposal with Tinder and Hinge and Instagram, you are less satisfied with the option that you're given. However, the DMs that I'm getting are very rarely a high caliber man that I would be open to going on a date with. I've saved myself. I don't expect him to save himself, but I expect him to have those same moral standings and beliefs that I do. And very rarely the guys in my DMs are that. And so, no, I'm not going to allow.
How old did you say you were?
I'm 22.
Yeah, you're 22, right? So, yeah, if you rigorously pursue finding a man who has the caliber of qualities that you're after, in this case, good foundational Christian ethics, and you have reasonable standards when it comes to things like income, height, and look. Nobody's asking you to date somebody you're not attracted to. That's basically an impossibility for most people. Nobody's saying that you should do that, though I do think attraction can grow over time between two people.
I agree.
But overall, I would say that if you keep your standards within the confines of reason, just remember that young men at your age, they have potential, right? You're looking for the potential for what they can do when they're in their 30s and 40s. Most men your age are going to be broke as shit. They're going to be broke, right? They're going to be fucking working a job that's somewhat menial, right? And it's after they engage in family that they grow into that role, by the way.
Right.
So it's not fine, as long as he has the grounding foundational ethics that you're after, the Christian ethics. A lot of that stuff grows post-marriage and post-family. It's these standards are so high though for a lot of women where they're like, oh, he's got to make $100,000 a year, and it's like at 23, he can make $100,000 a year at 23 or 24 or 25. That's for men in their 30s.
What are your standards?
Mine?
What are you looking for in a guy?
I am looking for, number one, a guy who fears the Lord and loves the Lord with his whole heart. I think that a lot flows from that. I'm looking for a guy who's ambitious and has goals and is a doer, and he says what he's going to do. I think that there's a lot of, I would love to follow after a man that his word means something and I see it in action. And I think that honestly a lot flows from both of those. I think that a character in a guy, if he really is honoring the Lord and wants to honor the Lord in all that he's doing, I would respect the heck out of him. I would submit to him for sure. But it's very rare that I come across men like that I really respect.
Are there any things looks-wise, like he's got to be?
Yeah, I've got to be attracted to him, but I think that changes.
Okay.
I think that totally changes. I also think that that's so fleeting. Oh my gosh. if I'm going to choose dating a guy who's 6 foot over maybe his character, I think that's incredibly stupid and I'm probably not ready for marriage. So, it's I think that I'd much rather choose man's character over the way he looks when I'm approaching trouble with our kids, when I'm approaching trouble in our finances and the things that we're going to experience on this earth. And his 6 foot, brown hair, blue eyed look is really not going to hold up when we're under the weight of the world. And so I'm going to marry character over that any day of the week. But I also think it's tough because you do need to be attracted. God wants us to be attracted to our partners.
Sure.
Like it's going to be hard to have a nice sex life when you're, like, oof, I don't know if I,
Yeah, it's
like
hard to
you.
reproduce with people
Yeah,
who don't have sex.
totally.
I get it.
They can feel it, too.
That
They
makes
know.
sense, right? It makes sense. It's hard to reproduce with people you don't want to have sex with.
Totally.
Attraction is a fundamental part of relationship dynamics. I'm not disputing that that's the case. But here's the thing, right? If it is the case that a lot of women, if they want to have those resources for families when they're younger, it used to be very commonplace for women who are in their 20s, early 20s, to marry men who are in their 30s. Men in their 30s, still very attractive, and end up having a lot more resources, things like this. But what's happened as a modern phenomenon is women get really upset about the idea of age gaps. They get super pissed about it. It's because they
we're
don't
not-
want the
I'm not scared.
competition. Yeah, but it's
That's
because
not
they
a
don't
problem.
want the competition.
I was
Right?
always
They get
chasing the
they get
age
upset
gap
about
when I
it.
was younger, so I understand.
They get upset about it because it's competition for them within their age tier, right? There's always a younger, more beautiful woman, so they get mad about that shit, right? But one thing you could do inside of the tier, if you're looking for that now and you think that men in their 20s are just playboys, look for men in their 30s who are more grounded and established. Those guys probably will do a lot more taking care of you, much more ready to settle down. And, here's the thing. This may be shocking, but as it turns out, men in their 30s really, really like to have sex with young, hot women. Isn't that crazy, right? And they also enjoy marrying them. So it's like it's not crazy for women to be seeking outside of that age bracket.
Okay. We have a couple chats we need to get to. We
If
have.
you missed her, she was asking a question.
Oh, sorry.
My
Go ahead.
one concern with the age gap, and I know this is weird, but simply put, I don't want a man who's been promiscuous in the past, and I feel like that happens a lot with the age gap. And I also don't want a man that's going to die a lot sooner than me, because when I'm 80, I need someone to still protect me.
Yeah, but the age gap argument, nobody is saying you
That's what your
need
sons
to.
are for. That's what you have sons for. So the thing is like, and by the way, again, the church has looked at this problem every which way. When I say the church, I mean the Orthodox Church. Here's the truth. The truth is that you're making what's called deferment. It is true that those men may die before you die, right? Perhaps even 20 years before. But you have sons. Your sons are going to protect you. By the way, the old saying goes, even bad men love their mamas. That means that even if it is the case that you raise hooligan sons, even they, you know what I mean, ain't gonna let nothing happen to mama. That's the
You
way
can't-
that works.
you can't
The
count on
second-
having sons,
The second
though.
thing, what's that?
You can't count on having sons though. Like that's not that's not a guarantee.
Yeah, if you're a person who plans on having 5, 6 children, right? You get started young. I think that you being able to count on having a son or two is pretty high. It's significantly high. But let's just say that you don't. You still have brothers. You still have cousins. You still have other members of family. Those people will also step in for that protectorate role if your husband dies early. Also, matrons in society have less to fear in that regard. If your daughters, for instance, are married, now you have sons-in-law, they're also going to help out mother-in-law, right? The idea here is that you're creating a grounded foundation for family. That's the whole point. And so it's like, it seems absurd to me because the other thing is you can defer resources. So you can make the argument he'll be a father for less time. But by the time kids are 18, you've spent 90% of all the time you're ever going to spend with them. 90% of the time. So if that's the case, then that means you're just deferring resources and saying, well, they could also give them a way better life within the confines of those 18 years.
Can you address the promiscuity thing I said, though? Because I do not want a man who is
Yeah,
promiscuous.
men shouldn't be promiscuous. Yeah, that's true. But here's the thing. I'm just going to be blunt with you. Most women care far less about former male promiscuity than men care about women's.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that.
There's and here's the reason for that. The reason for that is based around knowing who your offspring is. So for women, the virtue of chastity, and the reason so ingrained in men, is because before there was paternity tests, which are a recent advent, we needed to know who was having our children, right? If they were sleeping with multiple men, you didn't know if it was your child or not. And so that's why we're hardwired against it. We loathe it. We think it's gross. The whole 9 yards. However, the phenomenon is the opposite. Oftentimes, women, if a man is a virgin in their 30s, will think he's weird or sick or has a problem or he's a red flag because why won't women sleep with him if he's in his 30s and is staying a virgin? There's actually incentives in society for men to sleep with women that aren't there in reverse except for the peer pressure of women. So I think it's actually I wouldn't look This is just my opinion, but I wouldn't look at the virtue of the man having slept with you know, I don't know, like 5, 6, 7 former women even. I think that that's going to ultimately be less important in that dynamic than in the opposition. I know that sounds counterintuitive.
No, I
That's how
agree.
you think about it, though.
No,
Yeah.
I agree with you.